made on Ridgeway Sports Podcast number 88. Hunter Keister, we are back to cover another week in sports. I am back, co-host, made on Ridgeway Sports Podcast. Let's get it.
Hey, Matt, back here for another one. Friday night as we enter the feistiest time of the year. Here we go, 88.
Late night, Friday night, middle of November podcast. As Kurt mentioned, as things just start to get spicy in the college football range, especially. NFL is getting close, but really it's college football, primetime college football, as the end of the regular season is near already. It feels like we literally just got to September and just started looking at these teams and was getting ready to cover opening week. And now we're looking at it, one of the last weeks of the college football regular season. Week 12 next week, excited for it. Gonna be a good show. But let's get it started. And we're gonna start it with going back to week 11, as there were some pretty notable matchups that we want to highlight and talk about to start this podcast. So, Kurt, what did you think of week 11? And then just pick a game to get started, and we'll get started.
Yeah, we'll start off with the big noon game. The Michigan at Penn State game after the news we all had received Friday. Was a good win. A very interesting game, to say the least. First half, kind of like how we called it. We said it'd be close. And then, really there in the second half, just dictated the game. Didn't take control, but we just didn't really throw the ball. Didn't really push the ball down the field, obviously, as we had 26 passing attempts straight, which was more of a game planning thing. But nonetheless, it was a big time win after the mountain we had to climb Friday. So that's how I feel about it.
Man, just kudos to the team. I mean, everybody's gonna be talking about how tainted this stuff is, and until everything comes out, I'm not gonna really talk about it one way or the other until I get a full layout of what happened and what didn't. But what I will say is, it is very impressive. Friday on the plane to Pennsylvania, Jim Harbaugh is suspended. So you find that out. And with no time, this staff is able to turn around, rally the troops. The staff gets together. They go into a hostile environment. I get Penn State didn't have the best day, but a very hostile environment. I follow a couple Penn State outlets, media outlets, and they were saying they hadn't heard an environment like that in that stadium in some years. So it's not like the fans weren't there. It's not like the players weren't ready. Like, that was a really underwhelming performance for Penn State, and they were really upset about it from that side because that was a big one for them. And
I would say the fans definitely had an impact in this game, as we noted this when we were talking during that game. The play clock was getting down to 2-1-0 so many times. We had to burn a couple of timeouts and a few delay of games, just getting behind the chains. And
gotta expect that kind of stuff from
that is literally from the crowd. So they absolutely showed out for them. And kind of like, as I had a feeling, Juillar, man. Some of those play calls weren't there. Oh, that guy ain't it.
He did not make the throws. Because, I mean, there were some throws that were genuinely open, and he just missed. Threw behind the receivers a lot, sometimes above the receivers, and just didn't have a good day in, obviously, a really, really big game. You know, one that Penn State really, really wanted, especially at home, and they kind of underwhelmed.
Just conservative.
Penn State scores to make it look a little bit better than what it really was. And
they didn't score anything in the second half till that last drive when we were already up 2 scores with 4 minutes to go.
Yeah. So it was
it was 24-9.
Yeah. It was nothing remarkable. But
no.
We called it. It was going to be a pretty decisive win for Michigan. And although it was only a 9-point win, it was definitely pretty decisive for Michigan. And it could have been a lot worse. But I like the way they went about it. They didn't show their hand a lot. And they just stuck with what was working. And that was the ground game. And 26 runs later, they come away with the victory.
I kind of had a feeling that just earlier in the game, just a few pass protections broke down rather quickly, honestly. And they got the JJ with some good pressures there because they do lead the Big Ten in sacks, which I didn't know until I looked up after the game. But I felt like that dictated some things. And they were like, let's just keep the ball on the ground. We're not going to be able to, you're less likely to fumble it rather than a strip sack or something with the edge rush. And so I definitely think that played a factor in that reason why they ran it 27 times straight. I mean, Penn State knew it was coming. We're going to do it. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yep.
And Edwards made a few plays there, scored. Gorham broke some, especially that right after that turnover when Penn State went fourth and 3 or whatever when they were down on their side of the field. Gorham next play, GG, see ya. This was a much needed game for Michigan as we head in this next game tomorrow and obviously next week. So
yes.
Let's talk about some of the other games.
Let's move around the country as let's go to SEC country. Georgia Dogs, Ole Miss Rebels. This was from Georgia. College game day was in Athens, and this game lived up to the hype, at least on one side. 52-17, Georgia in this one.
Yeah, we were watching this one.
28 before the half.
Just ragdolled them.
Yeah,
ragdolled them. Ole Miss's defense, it stood no chance. They stood no chance.
Right.
I think this was like Brock Bowers' second game or his first game coming back. I mean, they did a lot of things coverage-wise to him, but, dude, they mopped him. Mopped the floor with him.
Right. Yeah, nothing really went right for him. Carson Beck only had a few incompletions for 300 yards. Mm-hmm. He had one interception, but 2 touchdowns. Ole Miss running attack didn't really do too bad. Judkins, I like him a lot. He had 22 carries for 75 yards and 2 touchdowns. But Jackson Dart, I don't know if he got injured or just wasn't playing well, but 112 yards and a pick. Definitely want more or expect better from him. Especially with Ole Miss sitting at 9 like they were. They
started out the game good, but I mean, you get down early to Georgia. It's hard to come back.
It's one of the hardest teams to come back on for sure. Georgia really just knows how to,
when they smell blood.
Yeah, they sink their teeth in when they can smell blood in the water. So, just a really all-around great game. And we'll move on. Let's see. Ohio State. We'll quickly touch on them. 38-3. Nothing to really say about that. Michigan State's terrible. 3-7. Marvin Harrison had another
big day.
2 or 3 touchdowns? He had a lot of rushing, which was really
surprising. I think he got like a jet sweep kind of rushing touchdown, in the red zone.
Marvin Harrison had quite a few carries in this game. It kind of caught me by surprise. Oh, he had 1 carry, but he had 7 receptions, 149 yards, and 2 touchdowns there with the one rushing. So 3 touchdowns for him. Yeah, Michigan State, they don't really turn the ball over. They just don't have the firepower to compete against these teams at this point and where they're at. And they get blown out 38-3. We'll move down. Florida State, I think they certainly should have beaten Miami by a lot more than a score of 27-7. The U had just been terrible this season, and Florida State being at 4, they just barely survived. I mean, I know it's a rivalry game, but man, Miami's 6-4. That's crazy to think about. The fact that they're 6-4. And Van Dyke, the longtime guy that's been there, looks like he got benched in this game. Emory Williams played a lot of this game. He threw 8 for 23 was his passer rating. Emory Williams. 8 for 23, 175, 2 touchdowns.
That's respectable. I mean, the 8 for 23 isn't that good, but
right.
The 2 touchdowns is nice, but that completion percentage is not good.
Right. Absolutely. Wow. That Florida State defense really ain't been there. And Jordan Travis, I mean, he had a decent day. 19 for 31, 265, 1 touchdown. Running the ball, 16 for 80 for 2 touchdowns for Trey Benson. So they do what they need to do, but if they're Florida State being number 4 in the country and wanting to be in the playoffs, I think they should have looked better against a lackluster Miami team.
Yeah, safe to say. Yeah, Utah-Washington. What a game. Utah really, man, I remember Applebee's keep an eye on this one, and they're hanging right in there. They had the lead for most of this first half.
Yeah, this was just a classic Pac-12, no type of defense, shootout type of game, and it lived up to the hype. I mean, Utah, they're just finding ways at this point. No Cam Rising. They got Bryson Barnes, Nate Johnson. Looks like they went exclusively to Bryson Barnes finally. And he's 17 for 30, 267, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Not a bad day in a losing effort. Their leading rusher was also Bryson Barnes with only 39 yards on the ground. That's pretty terrible.
That's not gonna do it.
That's not gonna do it against
Now
Michael
against a
Penix.
higher powered offense, you gotta be able to control that ball a little bit, not just throw it.
Michael Penix, another solid day. 332, 2 touchdowns, 24 of 42, no interceptions. That's a good game against a solid Utah defense.
Absolutely.
Dylan Johnson also rushes for 100 yards, and that's kind of that's where you get the game. You know, Utah doesn't have the rushing attack, and I think, especially at the end, it paid dividends for Washington as they get the touchdown win. Utah was the underdog in this game, right?
Yeah, they were plus 9.5.
Right, okay. So they do cover, but we're the underdog. Okay, so good game for Washington as they try to also hang in near that top 4 as the season goes on.
5.
USC, Oregon, definitely got to touch on that. USC, we thought maybe this was a spot where Oregon could beat up on a Trojans team that has now lost 4 games and pretty much nothing to play for as far as this season goes, but it was not that. The Oregon Ducks come away with a 9-point win. Bo Nixon continues to look absolutely incredible. This game passing for over 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, 23 of 31.
My goodness.
Just absolutely wild.
USC's defense isn't that good, though.
Yep, USC's defense is not good at all. Continues to be a weak point into that team. And Caleb Williams doesn't have a great game, doesn't have a bad game. 19 of 34, 291, 1 touchdown. Just not what it's going to be to win your Heisman, and kind of what we thought, for expectations for him this season. But
especially after last year. Yeah,
that's how it goes. I mean, it's hard to be back-to-back Heisman though. So USC catches another L, and Oregon improves to 9-1 as they sit at 6. I don't know if they'll be able to get in that top 4, but they are another team that they're all trying to fight and claw on that Pac-12 right now to make that top 4. So the ending into this Pac-12 regular season and conference championship is going to be absolutely wild, like the Big Ten is.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see how that plays out.
Right.
That's going to be points on points on points.
Points on points on points. Definitely got to touch on Texas barely escaping a 4-5 TCU team by 3 points. Quinn Ewers has 317 yards.
Surprised he played.
Quinn Ewers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if he did rush back, he didn't look too bad. 22 of 33, 300 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Decent day for him. In a dub. Jonathan Brooks rushed for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Xavier Worthy, 10 receptions, 137 yards. Every time I see him, dude. Every time. But, TCU, they put up 26. They had a receiver, Savion Williams, 11 for 164.
Wow.
They had a fumble in this game, and the quarterback threw 1 pick. Josh Hoover, it looks like they've used a couple different quarterbacks, has TCU in this season, and they barely lose to a top 10 Texas team. What, already said Big 12?
Big 12.
Yeah, Big 12, yep. Big 12.
You never know, man, with these division games or conference games, sometimes if you ain't playing your game, man.
Right. They got their eerie feel to them, and anything can happen, especially when you're well known with these teams.
Honestly. Which one were you about to talk about next?
I was going to say, these mid-slot games, a lot of them were beatdowns. Bama takes care of a lackluster Kentucky team, 49-21. Yeah. Oregon State all over Stanford, 62-17.
My goodness.
And what I thought was going to be a good SEC game, Missouri, Tennessee, 36-7. Yeah, I'm looking for Milton Seth right now. He didn't have a terrible game. He didn't have the best game. 22-34, 267, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. But he's bested. He's pretty much bested, or at least kept on pace with Mizzou's quarterback Brady Cook. 18-24, 275, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Another team with rushing or no running back as Milton leads the way on the ground with 36 yards compared to Mizzou. 205 yards on 35 carries. 205 yards on the ground.
That's not even right.
Wow. He averaged 5.9
no wonder why they
carry.
scored 36.
And they put up 36 points. And they had a receiver. This running back had 205 yards on the ground and 5 receptions for 116 yards through the air.
This man's was cooking.
320
scrimmage. 320 scrimmage yards.
From scrimmage against a top 15 Tennessee team.
Well, there goes Tennessee.
And there goes Tennessee.
There goes Tennessee. Wow.
I was keeping up with this game, but I definitely didn't. I didn't look at the stats like that. And that is just absolutely wild. And then another game we looked at when we were at Applebee's, UCF beating up on top-ranked, top 15 Oklahoma State.
Yeah, 45-3. Central Florida.
Never had a chance.
The dream miracle team from a few years ago.
Right. The undefeated should be in the playoffs. They take it to Oklahoma State in a Big 12 on Big 12 matchup. 7-3 Oklahoma State. What a loss.
Those conference games, man.
Unbelievable. I can't believe. And then to win like that too. 45-3.
I'm gonna smack you around.
That
some
quarterback
more.
goes for 299 yards, 3 touchdowns, and the running back 24 carries, 206 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Another game we got to talk on is the Kansas versus Texas Tech. Now, I thought there may be some look-ahead spots in this week, especially as we come down to the end of the regular season. And Kansas versus Texas Tech, I didn't think would be one, but in a low-scoring dogfight, top-ranked Kansas, ranked at 16, falls to Texas Tech, 16-13. Lower scoring, just how Texas Tech would have liked it. And they get back to 500 at 5-5, dropping Kansas to 7-3. And just not a loss that you would have liked to see them take right before a big matchup versus Kansas State.
At home.
They were at home. And wow, look at this.
Looks like just got taken over.
Yeah, look at that. Their quarterback play was abysmal. Bean, I believe, been the starter. He must have got injured. Cole Ballard comes in, 9 of 20, 124 yards, and a pick. He is bested by Bethran Morton, 19 of 25, 176, and a pick. So not very good quarterback play, but obviously in average offenses, the running backs show off. Taj Brooks for Texas Tech carries the ball 33 times for 133 yards and a touchdown. Devin Neal takes it for Kansas 19 times for 137 yards and a touchdown. And this was just the battle of the running backs and defense in this Big 12 game. And that's not something you used to be seeing in these air raid type games.
Typically not, no.
Right.
No.
What a win, though, for Texas Tech. Oklahoma gets a big win over West Virginia, 59-20. LSU, not the season they would have hoped for, already having 3 losses, but Jaden Daniels continues to try to make a case for the Heisman despite their losing efforts. He throws for 372 yards and 3 touchdowns and rushes 12 times for 234. Jaden Daniels is doing it all for LSU. 234 and 2 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns total. Thomas, the LSU receiver, puts in 6 receptions for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. And in a high-scoring SEC battle, LSU comes out on top. Arizona beats a Colorado team by 3 points as Arizona has improved throughout this season, 34-31. Shedeur Sanders kind of lackluster game, only 260 yards and 2 touchdowns. McMillan, the Arizona receiver, 100 yards and a touchdown. And Coleman rushes for 179 yards. Colorado is just another one of those examples of a team that if you don't have a running back to go with your air raid offense, you're going to struggle at points.
Yeah, like we mentioned previously, you need multiple ways to move the ball. Can't just always expect your quarterback to sling it 50 times, complete 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. It's just not sustainable. It's really not.
Right. You're right there. And as we close out Saturday night, Iowa wins 22-0 against a pretty decent Rutgers defense, and facing a whole lot of injuries. That team, they're ranked right now. I know they've had a cupcake schedule, but for all the adversity they face as a team, good on them and good on Kirk Ferentz for making things happen for them.
Yeah, they'll probably be pretty sure that they're the best overall record-wise team in the West.
Yeah, they should end up playing for.
So they'll probably, like we said before the season, they'll probably be in the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah, I would have liked to see a Caden matchup versus Eric versus Michigan, but unfortunately we'll have to settle for whooping on them again and whooping on their backups in the Big Ten championship game. But so that'll move us down. Let's see, ranked Tulane gets a big win over Tulsa by 2 points. Tulsa, only with 3 wins, almost gets a huge win in their season. Falls just short. Duke and North Carolina go to double overtime, and it's North Carolina 47-45. What a game. Riley Leonard is unable to go once again for Duke, and the backups fall just short against the ranked Tar Heels, 47-45. That was a great game. I watched the ending of that. And the last game was a 59-25 Kansas State win, as they, unlike Kansas, don't play with their dinner. They win their trap game, and they get ready for that matchup. So, good way to close out this week. And that'll do it as we just recap the Week 11 slate.
So it appears that they are going to investigate the Cincinnati Bengals for not listing Joe Burrow on the injury report.
I seen that. That's wild.
Because the team had posted a game day photo of Burrow, and there was like something on, like an appendix or something on his wrist.
Right.
And then the team quickly deleted the photo because they knew
it showed him like that. Compromised.
Unfortunately, last night, on that play, he threw a touchdown to Mixon. He injures his wrist, and then on the sideline, he tries to throw a ball, warming up, can't do it, heads to the locker room, and they deemed him out for the rest of the season this afternoon.
Yeah.
Up to that point, they were up 14-10, and it was a decent game. Not what I expected, but obviously, you lose your quarterback, especially a guy like that, and the game's over at that point. So the Ravens end up winning that game 34-20, as they are 8-3. The Bengals at 5-5 are toast.
Yeah, no Burrow. They got no shot at the season, and man, they got to find some way. I mean, I know it's just been like some non-contact stuff with Burrow, and then, this wrist you really can't help, but they got to figure a way to keep him upright and keep him healthy, because it's just one thing after another, and it's like every part of Burrow is falling apart, and before long he's going to be damaged goods. So, and I really don't want to see that for someone that should and could dominate the NFL for a while. So,
for someone as talented,
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
They gave him that big money contract, so gotta be careful. But
and Mark Andrews, we got to talk about Mark Andrews on the Baltimore side.
There was 3 Raven injuries, and they all involved Logan Wilson, for whatever that means. I don't know. The hip drop play wasn't dirty at all on Mark Andrews. That was an injury that was suffered. First drive of the Ravens, the first drive of the game, they went down and scored, but on one of the second to last plays when they scored, Mark Andrews suffers a ankle injury that is going to ultimately put him out for the season. So that's absolutely a huge loss for them. Lamar got dinged up as well, but he came back into the game and looked just fine. I think he'll be good. And Odell got an injury as well. Nothing crazy, but
he can't stay healthy. He's got to be done.
Yeah, I mean he looked good last night. There was a couple of good plays he had. He should have had a touchdown, but the referees are just complete garbage.
Really?
And the officiating is abysmal.
I kept it on. I was watching something else though. I don't remember what else I was watching, but I had it on.
Was it hockey?
It probably was hockey.
Definitely. But man, so now
hey, regardless, we gotta call Tony. We call it the Ravens minus 3.5.
Yep. They, like I said, once Burrow went down, that game was a wrap.
It was close. It was probably going to be a nice competitive game, and just unfortunately, the injury bug hit both teams, but obviously the more severe to the Bengals. And
it continues.
Yep.
But
get rid of Thursday night football games. I'll end it with that.
I agree.
Get rid of Thursday night.
I think they need to get rid of them.
As much as I enjoy it, as much as I like the what it does for the midweek, I think it's just the cons are heavily outweighing the pros at this point. I think that's very, very.
The players hate it.
Prevalent.
The fans don't like it. They never put on good games, and then when they do, the good players get hurt. So forget about it. Forget about it. But
good point.
So yep, Ravens are right there, top of the conference, and it's the Bengals. So I think that'll about do it. Let's dive into some good old college pigskin, week number 12, as we head into the final couple weeks of this regular season.
Let's get it started. Let's start off. Let's get Michigan out of the way. Taking on Maryland on the road. Current line is 19.5. Obviously, this whole scandal BS going on behind the scenes. Obviously, we'll touch on that a little bit later in this podcast, as there's been a little more pieces coming out here and there, tidbits. But as for this season, we'll stick to that. And what matters is these players and how they're playing, as Michigan is now 10-0 and going into the last 2 weeks of the regular season. Obviously, this matchup against Maryland on the road, and then returning to Ann Arbor to take on the arch nemesis, Ohio State Buckeyes, in Ann Arbor to close out the regular season. So, obviously, 19 points. I mean, we talked about the scandal a little bit, but talk to me, what do you think these players feel like?
I really can't even imagine what they're having to go through. They're just there to get education and ball out. They've been working for this all their lives. To the players that are there right now in their final couple of seasons, they've worked the past 3 to 4 years dedicating their life to this. And, for this shit to be happening right now, there's so much outside noise they have to try to block out. Like I said last week, this shit makes or breaks you. You can either let it infiltrate the goals and, what you're set out to do, and you can let it ruin that, or you can let it motivate you. And I think my positive takeaway is going to be, like how they said bet last week, I think their best outlook is to try to use all this as motivation as to why they think they're number one. Yeah. As we've mentioned before the season. And, it's a lot of baggage, a lot of shit they don't need to deal with. This has nothing to do with them. So, I think speaking in terms of tomorrow's game, with betting, I would probably take Maryland plus 19.5. I think we'll probably win by 17, but I can't imagine, we played conservative last week. I can't imagine we're going to play super aggressive this week. Could be looking ahead a little bit next week as well. But hopefully we do what we do, and that's pull out JJ and the starters by mid-third quarter, if not hopefully the fourth. I think we'll be curious to see what kind of play calling goes on tomorrow, with this being Sharon Moore's second game as the coach. So that'll be something to keep our eyes on.
Yeah, I agree for sure. Want to see the offense click, but hopefully don't have to do too much. And yeah, for sure, especially with Ohio State looming next week and them playing Minnesota, we know how that game's most likely going to go. their starters should be done by halftime, most likely. So we definitely want to try to get our guys out as soon as we can to try to keep them as fresh and as healthy as we can going into next week. But
also, don't want no injuries, knock on wood.
Yeah, no injuries, but don't want to show off too much of our cards for next week. Just get in there, take care of business, and get out.
Win the game.
And yeah, I think it showed a lot about the players. Mike Barrett, a longtime leader there, he was tweeting about just the mindset today and just keeping a good mindset despite all this happening. And then, him being a linebacker and having the coach get fired, I think that showed a lot for him to come out and just try to rally the troops and just stay in positive vibes. Yep. Stay in positive. And what's wild is the next man up, the linebackers coach, will be Jesse Minter's dad, Mike Minter.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm out. We'll be all right then.
It runs in the family.
If his last name is Minter, then we're cool.
It runs in the family. So, yep, all right, that'll take care of Michigan. Yeah, I'd probably lean towards Maryland with the points because it's probably like a 10 to 17-point game. I know the players are mad, though, so it wouldn't surprise me if they tried to really put their foot down here and get them out of here early and, so they can get out of there early themselves. So we'll see what happens there, but let's move down the board here. It's a good matchup in the ACC. Once again, Miami, 6-4 now, taking on 9-1, 10-ranked Louisville. In Miami is this one.
Yeah, another noon game.
Right. Herb, who do you like in this one? Louisville coming in. They got the Plummer, their new coach brought in, Plummer.
Yeah, I think Miami got all their magic out last week. I don't see them staying in this game.
Right. What's his name? Boeheim or something like that. Went back to Louisville from Purdue and brought a quarterback from the transfer portal. And I mean, he's been good. 1 loss in the season, navigating this ACC schedule really well, beating the likes of Notre Dame, only losing a game that they would really probably like back at this point to an unranked Pitt team, but they beat Duke as well. So I mean, if they can pull off wins against Miami and Kentucky, if they would have beaten Pitt, we could have
maybe
been
right in there,
them.
that 5-6 range.
Yeah, they really could be. So that could have been interesting, and that just goes to show you how in some of these conferences and most conferences these days, especially with the 4 team, you can't one loss and you're done. And Louisville is a prime example. They're going to get a good bowl game, but that 1 loss, they're not in contention right now. So.
Yep, it's awesome.
So you think Louisville will take care of the business? This team is actually a 1-point favorite for Miami in this one.
I would be all over Louisville +1.
Okay,
for sure.
I could see that. Yeah, I mean,
they'll definitely stay within 1.
Right, Miami playing well, losing by 7 to Florida State. I mean, they lost by a couple of scores to NC State in a game I was on. Miami, unfortunately, before getting wins over Virginia and Clemson. So up and down. If I'm putting money on it, it's probably on Louisville, especially on the plus money. Unless Louisville is terrible on the road, which I can't really see them being that terrible. So we'll see. But for now, I would say Louisville. Let's keep moving down this card. Rutgers, Penn State. Ooh, this was the game that I talked about on the Shekel podcast, but I'll just quickly state that I think that this could be a game for Rutgers, still, a watch-out game for Penn State. I think, this is another Debbie Downer type of season, and I think that the fans are frustrated. They're fed up. The offense is not as good as you would have hoped, and against a stingy Rutgers defense, who is playing better as a team at 6-4. I think at a line at +20, even in Penn State, I think 10 to 17 makes sense for Penn State. Give me Rutgers +20, and I'll stand behind that. I said it on the CFB podcast. I like it here. I think that this is a hard spot for Franklin to rally the troops against, for another season of underwhelming and what could have been if you'd have beat the teams that, you say that you can. So
yeah, I'm more on the sour side of Rutgers right now because I thought they would stay close within Iowa 22-0 later. They might hang around, but I don't know, man. I feel like Penn State might just be like, fuck it, let's just win out and get a good bowl game.
That's also very
Because
fair.
their defense, I'll tell you what, I learned last week, their defense is definitely good.
Right. Yep. They, like we talked
Especially
about their
at
offensive
home.
line, but that defensive line was great. Like we said earlier, I mean, killing our right tackle, pretty much forcing us to run the ball, and then we were able to finally do that. But they
Especially at
started off
home.
good. They started off good, and that
run game's pretty solid, but we just have a really good rush defense, to be honest.
Yeah, it's gotta be the telltale for Rutgers. If they can make Aller pass,
If they can make Aller actually do something, I feel like they can stay within that plus 20. But if they let that run game go on,
and the run game, it's all Penn State for sure.
I agree.
Okay, then we got Arizona, Utah. Arizona's a 1-point favorite in Arizona. Kurt, I want to hear your take on that one. What do you think?
1-point favorite?
Yeah, Arizona, 1-point favorite from home. So the early money must be on Utah, and ESPN has it predicted 57% that Utah wins. Although Arizona's the higher ranked team.
I would lean Utah for sure.
Right, especially in that underdog.
If they can play about as good, if they can play good like last week, I don't see why they can't win this game. Pac-12 game. I mean, we're in that season now where all this is all divisional game stuff. So I would. It's hard to guess with these ones, but I'd probably lean with Utah, to be honest.
That's fair. Yeah, I think if you're gonna give me plus one, but if I can get a couple more points, I'd like this game to be extremely close. Probably a field goal wins it. So I'll take whatever points I can get, especially if they're with Utah. It's a bonus. So let's move on. Don't gotta go too far though. Kurt, you think Tennessee keeps it close? Right now it's a Georgia 10-point line in Knoxville.
This was the game that I dove into with Tony, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Earlier this week.
I think you and I had Georgia. You and I had Georgia minus 10.
Yeah, I had Georgia minus 10.5. Like we mentioned, Tennessee, Joe Milton, you can't have to beat a team like Georgia, you can't have a one player do everything. You can't. You can't. And Georgia, they can do that. They always have a very physical team in the trenches. They win usually in the line of scrimmage, and when you can do that, you can control games. Milton's got to put up more than 7, and he only put up 7 last week. That's not going to do it against Georgia. So Georgia definitely with covering.
It's a fair take, and that's probably like I said, that's the way that I'm leaning as well. I think that Georgia defense can tear apart Milton, especially if that's all he can muster last week. Yeah, give me Georgia.
I feel like Georgia's beaten them. How many? I feel like they've won like all their recent matchups.
For a while. Yeah, for a while.
Like 9 out of the past 10.
Well, here's another good one. Clemson as a touchdown favorite at home against North Carolina. Clemson unranked 6-4. North Carolina 8-2. They're ranked 20th.
I ditched Clemson after that Duke game.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, they beat
minus
Notre
7
Dame by
though?
touchdown.
I don't know, man. UNC plus 7.
UNC plus 7?
Yeah.
It's hard to go away from Drake May. I think, I'm going to say UNC plus 7 because I think this is a game where if Drake May wants to be a highly rated drafted quarterback, this is a game where he's going to have to at least be competitive. Yeah. And if he loses by more than 7 and Clemson covers, I think that means that he had a bad game and probably hurt his draft stack a little bit. I know Clemson is hard to beat on the road, but I think that'll be a big one for your resume.
Plus 7.
That'd
be within a score.
That'd be a big one for your resume if you keep it close and maybe get the win. But especially at plus 7, the way Clemson's been playing, this could be a get back spot for him. But
so up and down. I feel like they're so up and down.
UNC plus 7. Let's see. We'll get into some nighttime action. Kansas State and Kansas.
Oh, rivalry
game. 25 Kansas, 21 Kansas State. Kansas State is a 10-point favorite.
Who's that beast quarterback they have?
Will Howard?
Never mind. I was thinking of someone else. Must be someone different. Oh, man. Who was? Never mind.
Well, Howard's pretty good. 21 touchdowns,
I was
8
thinking of a different
interceptions.
name. I thought they had a different guy. But 7 o'clock.
10 points is a lot for this rivalry game.
10's a lot.
Kansas, after that 3-point loss to Texas Tech as well.
Looking to bounce back.
Is this a bounce back spot for him? I think plus
10's a
10.
lot.
Plus 10, because 10's a lot in a rivalry game especially.
Yeah.
I don't think there's really too many injuries. So, as I'm looking at it right now, I'm probably going Kansas plus 10.
I think so. I think that'd be a good one. Bouncing back after a loss. You're at home. It's a rivalry game. I think plus 10 is actually pretty fair.
There's some confident people in Kansas State with that, though, with the line getting up to 10. And then another good matchup at night. 5 Washington, 11 Oregon State. From Oregon State.
What is Oregon State, though, after that shellacking by Central Florida?
Yeah. I mean, but they got 2 losses in the year.
But now they're playing number 5 Washington.
They didn't lose. That wasn't them. That was Oklahoma State. Yeah, this is Oregon State.
You're right.
Oregon State has recently beat up on Stanford.
You're right.
And then beat Colorado by a touchdown and lost to Arizona by 3.
Yeah, that's right. The Oklahoma State Cowboys or whatever. What's the spread on this one?
Oregon State -1.
Oh, yeah, no. Oh, no. Unless this is like one of those Notre Dame USC situations where they something we don't, something we don't. Washington +1 all freaking day. This was one of the games you talked about earlier in the week. Yeah, it's
hard to think that Washington.
If Washington is really about it, if they're really getting to the playoffs, they have to win this.
Yeah, this would just be a unexcusable loss. I mean, I know Oregon State's good, but they're not anywhere near the top, and so this would be just an inexcusable loss. And for people to be on Oregon State enough to have Washington as a favorite, like you said, I wonder if there's just something that somebody knows, and I'm going to definitely be monitoring this game a lot. Tonight and especially early tomorrow before I put bets in, because very curious on why that line is the way it is. I know Oregon State's a home team, but why are people not more confident in this Washington? Yeah, why? I get, are you just the defense? Is that what scares you about them? I don't get it. So that is what I have to look into for sure.
Perplexing questions.
Right. As we get towards the end, it's 5-5 Florida taking on Mizzou. 8-2, they rank number 9. Mizzou is the home team, and they are 11-point favorites. Kurt, what do you think about that game?
Graham Mertz? Is that Florida's quarterback?
Yep, I'm pretty sure Graham Mertz is. Yep. And he's actually, Graham Mertz has 2,700 yards, 18 touchdowns, and 2 picks this season.
Yeah. Sometimes numbers can be deceiving, but I don't know. Plus 11's a lot, though.
Right.
But is Florida really that good?
Yeah, I mean, they beat up on a bad Vanderbilt team. They beat South Carolina by 2. They got whooped by Georgia by 20. They lost to Arkansas in overtime. And then lost to LSU by a couple of scores. So, up and down.
I'll take Mizzou. I'll take Mizzou -11.
You know what? We'll differ a little bit. Let's give the podcast a little something to talk about. Let's go the reincarnation of Graham Mertz playing a little bit better definitely better than I thought he would. I had to do a double take when I seen his stats. 11 points in the SEC. Night game. Something tells me close game. I'll take the point.
Fair enough.
And I think that's pretty much all that's worth talking about as far as it goes for Week 12 college football.
As this is the second to last week. What the rats?
It's going by way too fast.
I don't like that.
Me neither.
No bueno.
Covering what's gone on with the Michigan scandal that's news that came out today.
Yeah. We gotta dive into Harbs just saying, man, let's just take 3.
Right. So basically, the Michigan Wolverines met with the Big Ten, NCAA, whatever the case may be. They meet. More evidence is produced. That's what's important about this because a lot will happen as today goes along. More evidence was produced last night, which made um, Michigan ultimately stopped their lawsuit with the Big Ten, as well as accepted Harbaugh's 3-game suspension. It's only the game that's really important. Harbaugh can really do pretty much everything else besides be on the sideline. Still important, but not the worst case for this Michigan team as it pertains to the rest of this season. So, as today goes along, that's found out. More evidence is produced to Michigan. With this new evidence, it is found that Chris Partridge, a great recruiter for Michigan, he was there for a while, pretty much at the beginning of Harbaugh's stint, and then he went to Ole Miss for a couple years. He rose through the defensive ranks there, was the primary defensive play caller in 2022 there, and that was Ole Miss' best season while he was there. Then he comes back and joins the staff last year, and now this season is unfortunately fired. We were not told anything besides he was relieved of his duties at first, but it is now reported that he was tampering with evidence, the evidence that has to do with the Stallions scandal. So just unfortunate and just a really massive blow to this Michigan staff, one of their best staffers. You know, on one hand, I want to see anybody that's trying to ruin the integrity of this game and the university, I want to see them gone because, you know, honor and integrity, and that's what Michigan stands on, and that's what they've been about. And I think that that's what they truly are about, and anybody that doesn't embody that needs to go. But it just sucks to see that him get himself wrapped up into this, and now he's unfortunately without a job. And yeah. Hard pill to swallow. I sat for a while and just kind of just sat my head down and pondered some thoughts, and then called Kurt, and we just kind of collected our thoughts. So Kurt, kind of talk about that and talk about what your thought process was when you got those news.
Yeah, when I saw that he got fired, I figured, man, this is a sign that there's deeper levels to this whole investigate. There's deeper levels to this whole thing than we know, than we initially had thought there was going to be. And obviously, they fired him because he was involved in some form or fashion with this whole thing. Another coach down, another just more stuff to deal with, man.
Right.
This is just creating.
What a headache was the vibe that I got.
It's creating a massive headache because you don't know what to believe online. You don't know what reports are true. You don't know what reports are true, man. We don't know. There's so much stuff that floats around the internet. I don't know what's the truth and what's not. So this whole situation just, I don't want to say this, but man, if they're going to find more stuff as they dive in. And that's kind of why I figured Harbaugh was just like, all right, just slap me on the wrist now.
Yeah, as I wanted to get into this, I think that I want to go over, I think I'll go over some optimistic sides, a pessimistic side. So first I'll go over like the best case scenario, optimistic side for Michigan right now. The best case was that it seems Jay Harbaugh may have been in cahoots with this as well. So best case scenario is he's in cahoots, he's out, Partridge is fired, and Stallion is fired. And then Harbaugh gets the 3 games, and everything's pretty much dealt with like that. And that's pretty much best case scenario, is that the bad apples are cut from the tree, and then Michigan kind of marches forward. But like you're kind of saying, it's kind of hard to not believe that there's going to be even more layers as they continue to peel things back here. And it's just very unfortunate. We talked about it earlier. The timing of this is just truly just the absolute worst of what it could be for this Michigan team and these players that truly have done nothing wrong, and it's all just staffers or coaches behind their back doing things. It's like, I truly just believe these guys have been just trying to play football and win football games, and now we just, like you said, we just have outside noise, and more roadblocks every way we turn. So I really kept I'm going to wait and see outlook on this whole thing, and I'm going to stay by that because, like I keep saying, every day it's more things to peel back or more things to look into. So as more things come out, I hope that everybody that's undoing the integrity and honesty of this university is just cut ties with completely, and we're just able to eventually free ourselves from this situation entirely. But it's hard to believe, like you said, it's going to be tainted as far as what the winds were like, and yeah, I think you were really right about that. I think that there's going to now be always that running joke they can have, and that just sucks, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm not going to be hasty and jump to conclusions, but I have a hard time believing this isn't going to drag into the offseason and affect things leading up to next year. And so, I can't believe we're even in this spot, especially at this time. But like you said, I'm still going to stick with what I was just saying. I'm going to roll with your optimistic take. I'm just going to stick with what we said in the beginning. We're gonna finish this season undefeated. I think the players are ready to roll, and I think this is only just gonna light a fire, and it's gonna be real funny to see how they feel when that AD, the athletic director, is gonna be handing that Big Ten championship trophy over in Indianapolis.
Oh yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
It's like a Goodell Tom Brady moment. Goodell having to hand Brady the Super Bowl. That's gonna be a great moment for Michigan and good old Patini over there.
I'm with you. I see all views of this, but you know what, man? The players are gonna go out there and they're gonna do their thing. So that's all they can do.
First things first, we gotta go beat Maryland, and then, like Mike Barrett said in his tweet, control what you can control the controllables, and just keep winning because that's what we do, and everything else is gonna work itself out.
Just one way or the other. These next two, and let's get Harbs back and let's go finish this. And then whatever happens is gonna happen. It's too late now.
Absolutely.
So that's my feeling.
That's our take on college football for the week. And let's see. We'll stick in the college range for just a second. I want to look at some of these college hockey games, as there was some bigger games going down. Michigan picked up the first win in Ann Arbor against Penn State. Michigan had fallen back to 12 in the rankings. Penn State was 18th. Michigan was top 5, I believe. So they're falling down pretty fast. But Michigan State was actually ranked above them, which I thought was laughable. Until I see that they are up 4-2 on the current number 1 team in college hockey, the Wisconsin Badgers. Wisconsin has beaten.
Wow.
I believe they've beaten. I think we played them. I'm pretty sure they got a game off of us in Ann Arbor. I know they beat Minnesota in Minnesota, so they are now the number 1 team in college hockey. And it looks like they're going to go down to Michigan State, as it is 4-2. It's terrible. The coverage for college hockey is so bad. The website doesn't even update in real time. So it just tells me. Tells me 4-2, but it just says, unless it is still just first intermission, that'd be crazy 4-2. But there's that game going on, and then there's also number 17 Notre Dame taking on number 6 Minnesota, and that game is 2-2 in the third period. So there's your little Friday night college hockey update, and get a little miscellaneous like that, and then quickly Michigan started off 3-0, got a big win in Madison Square Garden. Last time out against St. John's, they come out. Long Beach State, coached by, apparently, I was reading up on this guy before this game, and he was the guy that really brought Gonzaga into the fold. Basically, he brought Gonzaga there, got fired, ended up at Long Beach State, and he's made them pretty good. And Michigan would find that out the hard way. They are like 17-point favorites against Long Beach State in the Chrysler Center in Ann Arbor, and they lose outright in this game, 94-86.
Oh.
And as I'm reading through the tweets, because I have a whole lot going on. I got the hockey game. I had the wrestling dual meet. Michigan's first wrestling dual meet was in, they faced Columbia. So I had that on the screen. I had the hockey game on the screen. And I had the basketball game on the screen. So I'm like trying to bounce back and forth. But just on Twitter, somebody that was at the game called it one of the worst defensive performances they've ever watched from just a basketball perspective.
Wow.
So, and that's really what it looked like. Is Michigan started the night off pretty good, and then as the game just kind of went on, and just like they had a decent lead, and then it went away, and then it was a back and forth game, and then next thing you know, it's at the end of the game, and a few mistakes here and there, and Long Beach State they come away victorious. So hard fought game on their part, and they get the big win over Michigan, dropping them to 3-1.
3-1.
But,
Still a very early young season, especially with no Juwan.
Yep, we'll be getting him back, but definitely wanted to touch on that in this Friday night. All right, that'll do it. Got our sports caught up for the week, and to end off this podcast, we are going to talk about the UFC Fight Night as Brendan Allen will take on the ageless wonder, 35-year-old Paul Craig in the main event. Kurt, I know a lot of these guys as I've kind of followed UFC a little bit closer, but I feel like you won't know, so I think this will be fun to just kind of make some picks on for this fight night. So let's start it off. We got Uros Medak and Maitabek Orlabai, 6-1, 9-1 Medic, 11-1 Orlabai from the 170 division. Orlabai is 25, Medic is 30. Medic is southpaw. Orlabai is the favorite in this one. Kurt, what do you think?
I'll go with Orlabai.
Going with Orlabai, the favorite.
A 5 p.m. card? Come on.
See, like, they did so good. With when no sports were on. Now you're coming in the middle of football season, and you just keep coming with these middle of the day cards that nobody's gonna really be able to watch.
No, nobody's gonna watch. No.
Let's see. I'm looking.
Dana. Come on.
Orlabai. This looks like it's gonna be Orlabai's first fight in the UFC, as he was a former champion in the division he was previously fighting in. And then Uros Medik has fought a bunch in the UFC before fighting on. He was on the Contender Series in 2020. I'm gonna go with Medik here. I think Medik gets the win. So that's the first fight. We got a chick fight here. Crazy ass. I can't believe these fighters get that low in weight. Like the 125 are still like grown adults getting this low in weight is just crazy to me.
It really is.
Luna Pinheiro, 11-1 Brazilian versus Amanda Ribas, 11-4 Brazilian. Ribas is 30. Pinheiro is 30. 5'2" versus 5'3". Looks like Ribas is the pretty heavy favorite in this division. And I think that's probably for good measure. She got KO'd by Macy Barber in a fight that I'm pretty sure I even picked Ribas to win. I feel like I remember, because I knew I remember Ribas as her name, and I feel like the last time I seen Macy Barber, I picked against her. Looks like this Pinheiro she's newer. She's been in the Contender Series in 2020. Only fought a couple of times in the UFC. Won by split decision in April. Kurt, Ribas or Pinheiro?
Yeah, I'm feeling Ribas in this one. This is the finisher.
You think she'll be able to? She got KO'd in June. Do you think she'll be able to turn that around?
A bounce back.
Yeah, I like that. I feel like I took Ribas in her loss against Barber. I'm gonna stay with Ribas. She's minus 245. Good bounce back. Pinheiro's, they're both 30. Pinheiro's a little bit of a newbie to the UFC. So I think Ribas at 11-4 can get the job done. Looks like we got some Americans here. In the bantamweight division, Peyton Talbot 6-0, Nick Aguirre 7-1. Talbot's 25, Aguirre's 27. Two young guns, up and coming. Bantamweight, Talbot's from the Contender Series. That's where he last fought.
Yeah.
And then he fought on Uriah Faber's combat. That's crazy that Uriah Faber had his own league.
Did not know that.
No.
Surfer guy.
And Aguero, he was from a different card, and he didn't go through Contender Series. He just went to a Fight Night card in January and lost by unanimous decision. So in this one, looks like Talbot's kind of been groomed a little bit here. He is the minus 800 favorite. So I think I'm going Talbot. Gosh. Kurt, you think Aguirre has any chance?
No.
Talbot all the way for sure. All right, almost to the card here. This one is definitely a lot more closer. This one from the lightweight division. 6-1 Chase Hooper, 12-3, fighting 5'9 Jordan Leavitt. Leavitt's 28, Chase Hooper's 24. Leavitt's 11-2. Looking into Leavitt here a little bit more. He's a southpaw. He's fought a lot in the UFC. Yeah, looks like he loves submissions. He's a freestyle, but then it also says Hooper is jiu-jitsu. So that should be a decent matchup stylistically.
Yeah, especially
on the ground. A lot of fights for this guy. A lot of fights for Leavitt in the UFC. And I bet I'd be willing to bet Hooper, especially at 24, is going to be a lot fresher, a lot newer. His equal fights in the UFC. So, Kurt, who do you give this one to then?
I like
pretty close matchup,
Leavitt. I like Leavitt. I like the underdog in this one.
Leavitt at the plus money? Ooh.
Yeah.
28. He gives up a little bit of reach. Let's see. Favorite. We went favorite. Underdog. Yeah, I'll ride with you. I'll ride with Leavitt with you. Let's take it. Leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Moving in. Take it or leave it. Moving into the co-main event slot, we got Michael Morales, 15-0. This guy is a phenomenal wrestler. I feel like he was a world champion wrestler. I remember his name from somewhere. He's taken on Jake Matthews, welterweight, 19-6. Matthews is I feel like he's a stand and bang kind of guy.
Yeah.
And yes, Morales, they say he's a striker, but I feel like he has good wrestling. Jake Matthews has kind of just been one of those fight night guys with up and down results. Submission win, decision loss, KO win, submission loss, decision win.
Morales is undefeated.
Doesn't really fight too often. Morales is undefeated as well.
15-0.
You know, this line isn't that heavy. It's only a minus 310 for Morales. I don't really see anything that tells me Matthews can upset him.
It certainly doesn't look that way. I
think happen.
Morales.
Anything
can happen, but I think Morales is just going to have too much for him. I think he probably gets the win here.
Yeah,
I like a finish. I like a finish, and for Morales to go 16-0.
Yeah, I mean he's finished 3 of his last fights. Doesn't fight too often, maybe twice or once a year. So in this one, I think he improves. Stand and bang, Jake Matthews. I don't think he gets it done. I'll go Morales. Especially that's not a crazy line for him to be like that under 15-0. That's not a crazy heavy line like you would expect. So
definitely not.
Let's go to the ageless wonder, Paul Craig, in the main event. 35 years old, middleweight main event, taking on 27-year-old Brendan Allen, 22-5. Paul Craig is 17-6-1. These guys are both jiu-jitsu specialists. Allen is a submission. He's won by submission in 4 of his last 5 fights. He's won his last 5 fights and now fights Paul Craig. Yeah, he's won his last 5. He's been in the UFC for a long time. Since 2019, he came through the Contender Series. And then obviously, Paul Craig, just a guy that always counted on. I feel like you saw him on so many cards throughout the year, and he's just a good old Scottish lad. Good old Scottish lad. Going from light heavyweight to middleweight. Does he knock off Brendan Allen, or is the youthful Brendan Allen able to keep up with winning ways?
Young Stallion will keep the winning ways going.
Yeah, minus 425. Minus 425 probably where it's at. Paul Craig, I think he's just been in too many wars, like you said. I think it could be an interesting fight. Both jiu-jitsu guys should be an interesting matchup that way. But I like Allen, and I think he could really make some noise in this middleweight division. And Paul Craig is probably on his way out.
His way out.
I think that'll do it. UFC Fight Night picks got him in. We'll have to see how we do going into next week. But like we said, we want to get back here and do a podcast every week. So hope you guys enjoyed this one. Made on Ridgeway Sports Podcast number 88. Back for another one. Good hour-ish podcast. Got caught up in the sports world. And that should do it on this Friday night. Gonna go catch some more of these sports. Gonna go watch a little bit of this Colorado game before bed, and then get ready for Saturday. So hope you guys enjoy this one.
Oh yeah.
We'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Peace out.